So Nella, really nice to have you here. Obviously, we've known each other for a real long time. And it's just nice to finally be able to sit down and chat about what we both do. So, thank you for joining me. Tell our audience just a little bit about Omega and Omega RE and what you guys do over there.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me on there. So RE is not religious education, it's real estate.
Okay, yep, cool.
So I'm a chartered commercial surveyor, and we support businesses with their relocation, expansion. So we represent organisations that are with their lease negotiation. So for example, if your business is growing, we will come in and negotiate your lease terms. And we do that throughout the whole of the UK, whether that's an industrial unit, offices, retail, development. And then we also support landlords in terms of repositioning of their assets.
Yes, so you did something really amazing down at the Bulb in Southampton, and you essentially put the wheels in motion to create the UK's largest
clean air mural.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
That's definitely one of my brainchilds. I have to say that was scrolling through LinkedIn at midnight, breastfeeding my little one, and I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. We definitely need to create that in Southampton. And basically pitched the idea to FI Real Estate, and they were crazy enough to
go with the idea.
Join me on that journey, because ultimately the cost to do a sustainable development is quite substantial, and the rents that can be achieved is not financially viable. So actually, if you speak to a lot of the general public about what do they think about Nelson Gate, they would say it's uninspiring, it's grey, it's brutalist. So not all the great things that you kind of want to be known for Southampton, and it's the gateway.
It's literally as you walk out of the train station, you see that eyesore. And I used to joke with the lady she works for my shared office space, Rachel, that I moved in there and then they painted the building for me. Obviously, that's not the case, but seeing that whole thing happen from the inside, because we were, working in that building whilst it was being painted, it was amazing to see how it went from something so ugly to something now that, love it or hate it, it's a talking point and
absolutely
inspiring that what does it do? It
extracts CO2 out in the atmosphere. So Southampton is one of the fourth populated polluted cities. So actually being able to equivalent put 3 mature trees on the side of the building to extract CO2 is obviously our way of trying to give back to the environment and doing something a little bit more sustainable. Obviously, the game is to reposition that entire scheme. So once we can start to develop more demand in the building, that's when we can then start putting more investment in terms of the aesthetics. But we actually, so we had Will Rosie that created a QR code out of mosaics. So that's on the side of the building.
Shout out to him. We'll put a link down to some of his work in the comments, because I love him. He's super cool.
Yeah, so he's all around the city, so definitely one to follow. And so when people scanned the QR code, it basically took you to 3 different choices of the painting that we were going to paint on the wall, on the building. So we had over 10,000 people that voted.
Oh, wow.
And on the basis that we're trying to create a STEM community down at the Bulb, because that's where we see the future of work. I think actually that STEM community is where it's growing, it's thriving, and we want to bring that back into the city.
That's very, very cool. And I think it's a really inspiring story. So thanks for telling us about that, because you're definitely such a motivated professional. And so in your day-to-day job, actually making, massive changes to the city of Southampton must be...
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, yeah. My son, because every time we come into the city, he's like, "Mummy, that's your building." It's technically not my building, but yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, I did. I did it. That's mine.
Yeah, exactly. But it's definitely all about positive legacy. I think it's in everything that we do, particularly at Amiga RE. It's how do we leave the planet in a better place? And I know that's a bit of a cliche and a bit of a buzzword for some people, but
you're actually studying it, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah, doing some study at Cambridge.
Yeah, Cambridge University.
Amazing.
So literally just finished breastfeeding and thought, I've got so much time.
Yeah.
I'll sign myself up to the Cambridge course. It's pretty intense. It's an assignment every week.
Wow.
It's really full on.
And what's the actual course?
A sustainability in real estate.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're really, just really smashing it, because I imagine that's going to get more and more important. We were talking on our STEM panel at the South Coast Property Show.
Yeah.
Another plug. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I was talking on the panel about actually how do we make environments sustainable so that those people coming up through university and the younger generations who they won't work for a company if they feel like it's an unsustainable place. Some of their values are super, super strong, and absolutely they should be. So I guess you moving your business in that direction, it's only going to be better and better for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think more corporates are going down that sustainability route. I think the pandemic has really shifted what we want out of life. We're much more community driven. And if you're talking to millennials or the Gen Z.
I don't even know what we're on the end of the alphabet.
Yeah, I don't even know what I am.
I don't know either.
But generally, their drivers are different. They're not necessarily so money orientated. It's about the values and actually having more of a work-life balance, which ultimately should be the way forward.
More power to them.
Yeah.
But then you do get people like you and me that absolutely love the working and the life as well. So we get a good work-life balance. It's just, supercharged.
Absolutely. For me, sometimes I don't feel like it's working though. It's like my other hobby. You see what I mean?
What's your other hobby?
This is my work is my hobby. I absolutely love it. Since launching my business, I've fallen in love with surveying all over again. Having come from a corporate background for almost 17 years, and then stepping out and saying, actually, I'm going to do it my way. I've completely fallen in love with it. The clients that I deal with, there's such a stronger connection, and I feel that I'm much more valued. So definitely going through a transition, because when I launched my business 3 years ago, it was very much, I want the same sort of client network. And actually...
Sometimes it's nice to say no.
Yeah.
I'm really good for that client.
Yeah. Exactly. There's been a number of occasions I've taken reports away on holiday. I've been on the ski slopes doing a conference call, for example, or in Thailand just finishing of a report, and my husband's like, you really need to stop. Yes, but
we love it.
But then you do all of this work, bend over backwards for some of these clients, and then there's no gratitude for it, and you just think, actually, I'm not. Why am I doing this? And there does come to a point that actually you really need to know what your self-worth is.
I agree with you there. There is. You almost want to feel valued in the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
And, recruitment, me being a recruiter, we are very much treated, maybe like surveyors are treated, I don't know. But it's very much... exactly, bottom of the barrel. And, you have some clients that... and I'm really lucky, all of our clients are really, really amazing. But there are some clients that are like, no, we're working at this rate. And... we've actually had clients in the past that are really mean to my members of staff and made them cry.
Right.
And it's a professional environment. Our guys are really, really tough.
Yeah.
But some of the comments they were exposed to, we kind of drew the line in the end and thought, well, actually, let's not work with those kinds of clients, because actually we want to be a business that's representing companies we would really want to work for ourselves.
Yeah.
So
no, that's good on you.
It's nice to say no to some clients sometimes.
Yeah.
But we're really lucky at Capilaux. We've got a really, really nice blend of amazing clients.
Yeah.
And you probably, since building your business, you've now probably got some really nice clients that you're happy to say no to the ones you don't want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you have to build that foundation. I think both of us were probably at risk of taking on too much.
Definitely.
And sometimes you feel that you are Wonder Woman and like you can take on another task or another project because it excites you. But sometimes it's quite helpful to actually just regroup and say, no, this is not like the direction that I want to go in, or these are not the values that we are trying to portray or
align ourselves
exactly,
with.
Yeah. So actually, no. And I've always been really good about cutting negative people out. But I think from a corporate perspective, and I don't know about you, but did you you kind of had to just toe the line, right? If a client was mean or was rude to you, obviously my industry is very male dominant, and I don't feel that. I definitely suffered with imposter syndrome. I definitely felt that I wasn't good enough for the market, and I've always had to work much harder in order to prove myself.
Yeah, I know. I that completely resonates. I think to be a female business owner or a female entrepreneur, you're different. It's almost like you've got to be a certain type of breed of woman, because I believe any woman could start a business, but you have to have a certain type of fire. You have to really love what you're doing.
Yeah.
But also you have to, like, I'm so sensitive. Like,
really?
I really take things personally, and I overthink, and I always doubt myself. If something goes wrong, I'm always blaming myself first.
Yeah.
So not many people know that about me. But I just suck in like any kind of feedback, and just any kind of vibe. I'm so sensitive to it.
Yeah.
And that can really upset me.
Yeah.
But as a woman in business, you've also got to remember that people don't have necessarily space for your emotions.
Yeah. To be fair though, that
And that's okay. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
I think it can be a real superpower in business, really caring about what you do.
Yeah. And I think you must be having to tell some of your clients that actually those dinosaur eras have gone, and actually they have to be a little bit more kinder.
Well,
because it is quite a competitive market, right?
Oh, recruitment is absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of the candidates that you're recruiting...
oh, yeah, they become rarer and rarer. Like, we've got an ageing demographic in aircraft engineering. So I was looking up some statistics for some grant applications I've been doing, and aircraft engineers, the oldest registered aircraft engineer in the UK, shout out to him, but he's 92 years old. So there's a registered aircraft engineer out there that is 92 years old in the UK. Whether he's underneath a plane or not, I don't know. But whoever he is, I think we should definitely maybe get him on the show.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And so I think it's something like 27% of aircraft maintenance engineers are like reaching retirement age. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so there's a big challenge at the moment to encourage more engineers into the sector through apprenticeships, universities, schools. It's all about that STEM subject promotion.
So are you connecting with James, the principal at UTC?
Yes. Well, I... at the South Coast Property Show, another plug, we'll talk about that again in a sec, but James was really, really nice. I met him, and we're going to link up and talk a bit more about his good work down in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
Because that seems like a really nice partnership we could potentially look at.
Because they've obviously just got approval for their Southampton site. So that's 50,000 square feet. They're obviously oversubscribed at Portsmouth, and there's students that are travelling all the way from Poole, the Isle of Wight. I think the furthest is Guildford, because there isn't anything like it. I think they've got 46 schools throughout the UK, and how they differentiate themselves from like typical schools is that they're not necessarily academic led, they're industry led. So which I think is fantastic, because they're partnering with industry leaders like Lockheed Martin, BAE Systems, Airbus, and they're coming to them and saying, right,
we need these skills.
Yeah, we need these skills. These are the challenges that we're facing. They're giving those particular projects to these kids, which is phenomenal. But the outreach program that the UTC do, so they go out to primary schools and they let them, like kids, 7-year-olds, play with like Lego.
Oh, cool.
This is the most heartbreaking thing, is that some of these kids have never played with Lego. And they're 7 years old.
Wow.
And I just think there's actually more to it in terms of making sure that we're creating a diverse and inclusive STEM industry, because ultimately, like, if you're coming from a deprived background, you're never going to get that exposure, or to know different, or to go to a different school. Does that make sense? Because all you've known is to go to your standard school. And as we all know, not everyone is the same. And like, I wouldn't say that I'm the most academic person. Like, I have to actually, like, the reason why I'm doing okay in my sustainability course.
You're doing amazing.
It's the imposter syndrome kicking in, is because I'm doing it on the job. And so it's the equivalent of an apprenticeship. So I'm highly like promoter of apprenticeships, creating diversities and inclusion, but actually really getting out into the community and like just sharing that story.
That's really nice. I love alternative routes to education. So like I was also always through school and into college, I was high. I'm going to say it. I'm going to sing my song. So I was a high performer, but then I decided not to go to university, and I got into like a sales job, started to earn money, and that's really kind of where, well, you could say that's where my education started. So throughout that time, it's been very circular now, because I'm doing some stuff with the university now, but I've gone through a completely different route to get back to working within academia. Like I would have absolutely loved to have done a degree and to have done an MBA, but
it's never too late.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I've had a real alternative route, and now working with an academic institution is so eye-opening of what I don't know yet. And so I would really like to go back to education, but whether or not my brain can handle that with all the other stuff I want to do, I'm not sure. But what would
you want to study?
I'd do an MBA.
Okay.
So I'd do an MBA course. Hopefully I can do enough work through some of the stuff I'm trying to do now to just get an honorary MBA. That would be cool. But I think that's fairly, I don't know, that's having real high expectations for what I can achieve in business. But I think I'm going to probably have to just take the course. But they've got some really good programs locally. So one day on the list is an MBA.
Yeah, it's like that bucket list, isn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking of doing it this year, but you had to be in person in a classroom. And this year, we were able to take the business, or I was able to do a business development trip to Miami, to Dubai. Wow. I spent 6 weeks in Spain, working remotely as well. So I kind of thought, actually, let's do that work-life balance that we talk about, and not start that MBA course just yet.
Hats off to you, the whole notion of working from anywhere. How was it actually managing the team on the ground from so far?
So I found actually the managing the team part I feel like I was more effective.
Okay.
And I was committing to training and sessions, and it was more organised.
Okay.
But the problem with working remotely is if you're surrounded by people. So I was in northern Spain, and I was learning to surf on the side, and that was like my exercise routine.
Yeah, okay.
And so working an 8-hour day when you're surrounded by people that love to surf and don't like to work.
Right.
And they're like, you work too much. Mañana, do it tomorrow, don't worry.
Yeah.
The first 3 or 4 weeks on it, but if you're around people that are motivated in a different way and just want to go surfing all the time, you kind of become a bit like that. So the last sort of 2 weeks, I really did dial it down, enjoyed myself a little bit.
Yeah.
And then was like, okay, I can't live here forever doing this much work because I love my work.
Yeah.
But it definitely diminishes your motivation if you're surrounded by people that have different motivations.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I love the surf culture.
Yeah.
But for me, I have like an intrinsic need to achieve in business.
Yeah, you kind of thrive off other people's positivity and their achievements, right? Because, well, I'm a little bit competitive as well. So, so it's just like, oh my God, they're doing that. Oh, I need to be doing something. So yeah,
definitely.
But I don't think it as a negative thing. It's just it's not like I'm competing with anyone else. I'm running my own race. I definitely believe in that because historically, like what I mentioned earlier about not being good enough for the market, comparing myself to the guys, ultimately, like, I now drink beer.
You now drink beer?
Well, like, I started the industry and I was 18. And to be fair, when I started at 18, I was also doing professional kickboxing.
You absolute badass. That's so cool.
So I had to choose kickboxing or my career. And like, the social life as a surveyor is pretty social. But again, to be one of the lads, you got to drink beer. Like,
so now you drink beer?
Yeah, so now I drink beer. But like again, because otherwise, if you have to down that many pints of wine,
definitely. Beer, I guess, is. I haven't moved to beer yet, but I can definitely see the appeal. I've got some beer drinking female friends, and hats off to them. Going back to the point of who you're surrounded by, they say you're the sum of the average of the 5 people you spend your most of your time with.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I spend most of my time with a 3-year-old and a 17-month-old.
Wow. They are probably very cool.
Yeah.
They are very, very cool.
Yeah.
So that really got me thinking. So that's one of the reasons I joined Old Bond Store. Okay. Was that something you were involved in from the very beginning?
No, it's something that I've always believed in terms of like flex service offices, and we've always advised landlords to be incorporating those sort of space as a service. So yeah, Liam Day has like done a fantastic job in narrating that that community down there.
I think as well, it's like reimagining how space can be used.
Oh yeah,
that's a great space.
Yeah, we market the space initially, and we still are. But it's, I remember doing a walkthrough and speaking to a potential applicant about it. I was like, why am I not a member here? Like, I was literally like selling it to myself. So, but to be honest, I don't use the Old Bond Store for like desk space work necessarily. It's much more as a business development tool. Because the people that are there are business owners, so they're all going through the same stuff that you're going through on a day-to-day basis. By actually developing those relationships, you're able to actually have that frank conversation, like, shit, what's just happened, like, can you help me, or whatever there is. And I remember being there the other day, and I had like a really terrible day. Just a couple of deals had all fallen through. And Glenn Crump, he wasn't even in the Old Bond Store. He was messaging me, and I was like, look, I've had a really terrible day. Let's catch up another week, or whatever it was. And he basically got Narelle to send me a bar of chocolate. Oh. And I was on a conference call, and she just gave me this chocolate. I was like, oh my God, how did you know I needed chocolate?
Amazing.
And she literally messaged, she was like, oh, I had a little birdie told me, and it was Glenn.
Oh, that's
and I
so
don't even know him that well. Like, we've met a couple of times.
So me and Glenn go way back.
Okay.
Right. So me and Glenn worked in the same office for probably, I don't know how many months. But he was a branch manager and I was the mortgage advisor.
Oh, right.
Way back when. Yeah. But he's lovely. He's just a nice guy. And that's actually one of the reasons I joined, and I've recently joined. So I'm singing about it because I was working at Barclays Eagle Labs. About a year ago now, I left there. And that was a great space for people to just to talk to people that are doing really interesting projects. Like a couple of my really good friends are still there. But what I found after I left is I was craving that intellectual conversation that I got from like somewhere like Barclays Eagle Labs that has really innovative businesses in. And so I went on down to Old Bond Store after tickling with the idea for probably a good year and a half. And was like, okay, I think I'm ready to join.
You got FOMO effect, didn't you?
I did. I was like, I just want to talk to business people that have business problems. And actually the community's been so welcoming. I love all the people down there. And I guess that's the beginning of that journey. But I really like the space.
No, it's a really cool space. And it's 3 years of like hard work from the Old Bond Store team. But yeah, they've got something really special there.
It's very cool. And Liam's going to enjoy the plug, so we'll put a link in the comments as well.
Yeah, indeed.
So what are we going to talk about? Oh yeah, you've just absolutely smashed it at the South Coast Property Show.
Thank you. Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, Nella is the creator. She creates the South Coast Property Show with a lady called Lucy
Richmond. Yeah.
Lucy Richmond. She's also really, really lovely. Tell us about the South Coast Property Show and also the other events that you do.
Yeah, so the South Coast Commercial Property Show kind of, it's evolved. So I was the chairman of Southampton Property Association, and Tom Holloway was the chairman of Portsmouth Property Association. And we basically got 7 councils across the region in one room to give us an update of their master plan and the opportunities. Because we really believe that by actually highlighting where the opportunities are, that 6 degrees of separation, people start talking about what is actually happening in the region. And as we all know, we all concentrate on the negatives rather than like promoting the positives. So that basically evolved into the South Coast Commercial Property Show. So this year was our 4th year. So technically 5th if you include the SPA, PPA amalgamation. And it was incredible. Like, we changed the format. We typically hosted it at the Hilton. And everyone hosts their events at the Hilton. So
yes, that is very, like, it's a great space, I guess.
Yeah, great space, but ultimately, like, people want something a bit different. People want to have an experience. So we hosted at the Portsmouth Historical Dockyard.
That was a really cool location.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to get on that climbing wall. I really, really did. And I came back down later with some trousers on and it had closed. So I was like, oh,
I know, me too. I was like, I just finished presenting. Please let me on. But yeah, so from a climbing wall to laser mission, speed networking, amazing auditorium, and just to get that breadth of knowledge from like key stakeholders from across the region on the office market, industrial, STEM, ESG, residential, and then obviously the council updates was incredible. So we've had such good feedback, and it was literally the day of the storm. So the night before was pretty intense, trying to figure out contingency plans,
Well, it was declared a major incident.
It was, yeah.
I don't know if any trees did fall down, but but you know, a major incident is considered like risk to life, isn't it? Because if a tree falls on a car or something dangerous happens, you know.
Yeah, and obviously, like, it's just me and Lucy running the show. So we had 350 people, tickets sold, and then I have a call from Tom Southall from Portsmouth City Council at 4:00 saying, Nella, what's your contingency plan? I'm like, oh my God, there's no contingency plan, like the venue's still going ahead. So yeah, it was, but I think actually it's a testament to both Lucy and I, of just getting stuff done.
You're so hardy, like you just take it. You have a thing with weather and your events, because International Women's Day, it was snowing, wasn't it? So
I feel like I'm a bit jinxed, so yeah.
Hopefully not, but you just you have a mentality of like, well, this is just got to happen, or we're going to make do. You obviously streamed some stuff online, which amazing to be able to pivot that quickly, because I don't know if that was on the original plan, but actually definitely I think it gave you a bit more exposure as well, so I thought how great. I can't wait to see where you do it next year and what you're gonna do.
Absolutely. It's got to go big or go home, right?
Well, go big or go home. We'll give it to someone else.
No, we've already had people like approach us about purchasing the show.
No way.
But the thing is, it's like the cost of the show, we try to keep it reasonable because we think it's the wider benefit of the community, of the property industry. Because again, like if we can raise the global presence, it means that there's more investment coming into the city or into the region.
Well, you ran alongside that, you ran a podcast that was the top 5% in the world. Yeah,
I don't know how. Like, honestly, when Jason, the podcast company, and it's actually called The Podcast Company, he sent me an email and I honestly thought it was like a generic email. He was telling me about some stats about someone else's podcast, and I just said back, and I was like, oh, like that's great. Like, so how are we doing? And he was like, no, Nella, that's your podcast. Like, what? Who's listening to me? So it's incredible.
But then I think what I love about your content, and you know, I've listened to a couple of bits and bobs. I'm not a dedicated listener, as you probably do have quite a few. But what I find really interesting about your podcast is, and we'll put a link in the comment. We've got so many links to put in the comments, but it's actually talking about interesting things that business people are interested in. Like, for example, where it's good to well, you can obviously explain a bit more about what you talk about, but you actually have guests on that are really interesting. They're doing really interesting things. And I think actually it opens it up to not just property, but a wider business audience that are interested in opportunities in the South Coast.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think when we talk about the economy and the South Coast is very resilient, and there isn't actually that many regions that has so many things to shout about. So, for example, Hampshire and Surrey is the largest space cluster in the UK.
Very cool.
So that's outspace stuff, as opposed to office space.
Outer space.
Outer space, yeah. And then obviously you've got like the marine and defence sector, obviously the historical of the Navy, etc. So that's historically here. So you can kind of understand that. But obviously Starling Bank, that was their first regional office outside of London, which I actually supported them. And that
no way!
Yeah, so that was off a cold call.
You're like famous. Southampton famous. Or worldwide famous. Top 5% podcast in the world.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, if you're dealing with real estate, we want to be the people that people come to when they want to invest into the region. And it's more about, I honestly believe that if we can support each other, we will all thrive. And
there's enough success out there for everyone.
No, exactly. There's enough in the pie, right? We don't all have to be competitors. And ultimately, like, it's just, again, it's that positive legacy, like being able to do something quite cool. Yeah.
That is very, very cool. Definitely. I am involved in something pretty cool at the moment with the university. and we'll see how it all goes. But this was all actually because of you. And so
it's like 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah, so you obviously organised International Women's Day event and I just was overcome with, I guess, imposter syndrome, because we had Satvir, the leader of the City Council, just did this smashing speech. And then we had Dame Wendy Hall get up and basically talk about how she didn't invent the internet. She invented something that predates that. But, you know, for someone of my generation, she was one of the first, very first people to contribute to the invention of the World Wide Web or the internet, or however you want to describe it. But she's amazing. So she's just been nominated onto the high-level advisory on AI board for the United Nations. So I hope I got that right. So that's 193 member states are in the United Nations. So she's just advising governments worldwide on AI strategy. So for you to have her at your event on International Women's Day, like, that's wild.
I don't know who we're going to get this year or next year.
Well, hopefully.
Well, maybe she'll come and give us an update. But
well, yeah, we'll see.
Or maybe you'll get that winning ticket.
Well, who knows? And I think this is a beautiful story of women helping women, because after those two spoke, I was handed the mic as part of the panel, and I was just looking around thinking, I have no idea how I've ended up here. But yeah, then we got into a really great discussion with some of the other panelists, like the lady from Code Bar, who she's doing some amazing things, and the lady from Ocean Infinity, is it?
Yeah, Charlotte,
Yeah, so it was a really lovely panel. But then I sat down at the table afterwards with Wendy, and I just said, I'd love to know a bit more about AI. And how you think that will affect the aerospace sector, because that's going to affect my job. And she gave me her email address, and me being me, I followed up and was like, you did agree to a Zoom. And so, I arranged it with a personal assistant, and on this Zoom, I explained an idea to her, and she put me in touch with some people at the university, and we now have 5 absolutely amazing master's students, or their 4th year anyway. So their 4th year
final years,
So they are good, and they are developing like a pre-prototype for some maintenance engineering augmented reality safety glasses.
Amazing.
And so we're in the very early testing stages, but it's a very, very interesting project that we are now applying for some serious grant funding for. And whether that's good, that, you know, whether anything comes of it or not is a different story. But that journey, going from knowing very little about AI to now working on a high-tech university project. I'm learning every day. I'm growing every day. Like, this is what dreams are made of.
Dragon's Den or something, aren't I?
Well, that's, you know, this is what dreams are made of. Because if we get this grant funding, which is significant, then we will have to do a round of fundraising, and it will be like real world Dragon's Den looking for £500,000 to really kickstart the project.
So I get like a retainer, or
you will be finding us our spaces.
Oh, absolutely,
You will be finding us our spaces, subject to our procurement process. Just to put a disclaimer out there, because I guess on a serious note, if you are using government funds, you have to have a really watertight process, and you have to be making sure you're using taxpayers' money in the correct way. And what's really nice about this is I genuinely believe the team that we have can make a real difference.
Amazing.
Like, oh, it's so exciting. And I really feel like we are one of the good guys. We're not just writing a grant application so we can, you know, pay our salaries and get to go on our summer holidays. It's not about that for us. And the project wouldn't really be possible in the size we want it to be without grant funding. So we would hopefully, I'll watch this space. I'll update you if we get any.
I don't know like what I'm allowed to say like on this, but I think it's absolutely incredible what you're doing for the aerospace industry itself, because it just helps speed up efficiencies, training, and obviously the aerospace industry, along with most other industries, are suffering with that war for talent and actually recruitment into that space. So being able to kind of utilize your equipment will help speed that up, right?
Yeah, so we are literally applying augmented reality and AI technology to the aerospace market. It's cutting edge technology that is very, very exciting. And so me being able to be involved in that is an absolute privilege.
Yeah, that's incredible. I can't wait. Well, hopefully you're going to join us on the 8th of March for 2024 and hopefully give us an update, because honestly, like doing those events and hearing your story is like heartwarming, because you're actually like, it's the point of,
it's
like
women,
women helping women, right?
Yeah.
And it's not men versus women or women versus men. It's just generally like sometimes we just need that extra push. And like I've had so many people reach out to me, whether it's they quit their job because they were in a toxic environment, to a lady sharing her story that she has breast cancer.
Oh, wow.
And she only built up the encouragement to share her story because of the stories that we shared on that day.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
I hope she's okay.
Yeah, so she's going through like her first set of like chemo. But yeah, she's... me and Lucy were actually just talking about the princess wishes, because she actually has shaved all of her hair off. So we are looking to do something for Women's Day and actually cut our hair as well, a number of us.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well,
so
we'll put a link in the comments for the charity as well that woman's
yes,
supporting.
Yeah. Just to let her know that she's supported by the wider network.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, not really for promotion of like us or anything, but just to say that she's not alone.
That's so nice. Amazing. It doesn't cease to surprise me, all of the amazing things that you do. And so, yeah, I'm just a big fan.
I'm not going to be able to walk out the door, Elaine.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
I'm a super big fan. Only because since the first time I met you, I just kind of I was like, yes. I was like, it's just someone else who, like, I get it. Like, I get that excitement, calling your work a hobby, like actually wanting to do stuff. And that it's like that for me. So, and a lot of my friends don't get it.
Yeah.
It's like, why don't you just relax and stop working? And it's like, well, no, this is what I love doing.
Why are you so driven?
Oh, good question. Why am I driven? What drives me? Probably a number of different things. But one of my big drivers is my team. Like, a lot of people come into my business with no experience normally, because we can't afford people that do have experience. Or at the time we couldn't. And we've trained them and developed them. I've had a guy that did his work experience with me at 16, and at 22 years old, he's just bought his first flat.
Oh, nice, yeah.
So with the whole team, we benchmark, like, what do you want? Like, let's not stagnate. Yeah.
I think about giving back is really important. Like, there are just people out there that just don't have the opportunities. And I remember when I first got my first job, submitting my CV, and they were saying, oh, no, you don't have any experience. Like, well, how am I going to get the experience if no one will bloody give me a job? So it takes businesses like you that actually just give people those opportunities. And I think it actually, a lot of people that don't necessarily come through the traditional routes,
I find that they've got a hunger.
Yeah, they want it more. It's not to say that like those that have gone the traditional route are lazy or anything like that, but there's just generally a bit of a drive about them. I think for me, like, I don't come from money. My parents are like in the catering industry, like typical Asian family. And when I told my parents that I wasn't going to go to university, they were like, what do you mean you're not going to university? Like, you're going to university? Like, no, I'm not. I don't know what I want to study. Just going to go to work. And but actually, it was the best thing for me.
Bit of a university of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I bought my first flat at 21.
Amazing.
Yeah, so, but then that's because I'd been working for 3 years and just got straight into like saving money. But also, I bought my flat in 2007, and my deposit was $3,000, so it wasn't that bad.
Well, yeah.
That's how old I am.
It doesn't cease to amaze me that you're just a high performer from, however,
but,
just a high performer from, I don't know.
But I think
I don't know. Imagine in school you were directing all the other kids what to do.
Yeah, I don't think I made that many friends in that sense.
Ah,
Bossy.
not bossy.
Yeah.
What do they say? Don't call it bossy. Call it boss energy or something like that.
Okay, I'll use that going forward then.
Yeah.
But I think, like for me, it's definitely about giving back. Like I said, when I started my business 3 years ago, and then obviously having cancer like 20 days after I launched, or finding out I had cancer 20 days after I launched, that then really kind of homed in, like, oh my God, I've got a young child, what is he going to know about me? So I kind of like throw myself like properly into the deep end of, right, I'm going to make this work, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, he's going to know me for this. So, but it's all about that positive legacy. And I generally believe that there are kids out there that are special and just don't have the same advantages as some others. And actually, it was our responsibility to be able to give back, because ultimately you can't take the money with you when you die.
That's very true.
Yeah, and I just feel much more like, what's the word, humble, or it feels much more
fulfilling.
Because like, yeah, I've only just really started to taking a proper salary. We're like 3 years in, but I will still continue to do like charity. When did you start the business? What month? Technically, I launched on the 1st of December.
No way! So you're coming up to like your 3-year birthday.
Yes.
Well, congrats! Because isn't it the first 3 years?
Yes.
That is the danger zone.
It is the danger zone
for a business.
Yeah.
So the 3-year mark, my sister literally baked me a cake.
Ah. Yeah. How long have you been running?
5 years today.
Oh, amazing!
So literally this today.
Oh, happy birthday!
Well, yeah. So what's amazing though is when I started my business, I was in a bit of a dark place, and I was like, just imagine one day, wouldn't it just be nice if I had a couple members of staff, and I was able to afford like a nice house and a nice car. Like that was my dream of what I wanted the business to be.
Right.
In 20 years' time.
Okay.
And so within 3 years, that dream came to fruition.
Yeah.
We're now at 5 years, we've scaled as a business. We're getting involved in some amazing tech stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to level up these goals. I'm going to have to like dream bigger.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I took from that is, you can't ever dream too big. So you might as well just keep leveling up those goals. And then once you hit those milestones, just level up.
Yeah, no, because I went to a Tony Robbins conference a few years ago. And that was the thing. They were saying that all of these high performers, they got to their goal and then they were never happy. They were really depressed. And it's because they were never leveling up. They were never thinking, okay, what's the next goal? Or they're achieving it and then just like, oh, well, that was disappointing, like nothing else. And that's why they talk about, like, he talks about this will, like different spokes of your will. So you have to have like if you mark your health 1 to 10, your relationships 1 to 10, your business, finances, fitness, etc. And then if your will's basically got to go in a smooth line.
Oh, yeah. Because if you're missing one, then you might as well.
Yeah.
You won't have a smooth ride, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. So I've always been like really focused on work and finances and things like that, whereas sometimes my relationships will not be that great because I've been so focused on making sure that I survive and have all that security.
Working on the business. Right, yeah.
Exactly. So
looking after the kids, like you've got a lot
that
you have. Like, it doesn't cease to amaze me how amazing you are. Like, I don't have kids. And so that in itself is amazing for somebody like yourself to be so successful with a young family. Like, oh, you just blow my mind. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show, for sitting down and having a chat with